Well, here we are back from Texas. I love Texas. Love Texas so much. Back, made it through the Easter traffic, everything. Back here talking UFL week 1 here. I see people joining in the chat. Andrew Murray is logging on here. That'll be good. I'll have a little PSA and then we'll get into kind of all of the week's action. Very exciting. I want to kind of hear everyone's reactions too. I posted on Twitter yesterday grade UFL week 1 had a lot of, A, B, C kind of mixed, but overall positive, right? No alarming gaps, anything coming out of that. Let's get Andy on here. Andy, I want to say hi. And then we'll do a little PSA here, but how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, sir?
We're good. We're back. We're back from Texas. That is the greatest area in the history of mankind. That Texas Live, the Choctaw Stadium, the hotel there. I went to a Rangers game. I mean, that square mile is kind of Reed's paradise.
Yeah, I mean, the sports fans' paradise, right? I mean, it's just the ability to not only hang out, have some grub, hang out with some friends, but also go to sporting events. I'm jealous. I have not been able to really do that yet. I have been to Choctaw Stadium. I went to a Brahmas and Renegades game last year, but I have not been to Globe Life Park, the Rangers Stadium. I have not been to Texas Live yet. I wish I could have joined you guys. Looked like you had a ton of fun, and I'm glad that you got part of the trip together.
Yeah, it was good. I want to appreciate, thanks everybody for checking out the show, adding subscribers. If you're checking this out now, if you're finding this, like and subscribe. We do our regular Friday episodes every week. Obviously, this week was different because of the the game. But Mike Mitchell will be joining this week. We'll do kind of a full deep dive into kind of what Mike thought, attendance, and we'll have TV figures. I don't think we'll get TV till Wednesday because the holiday, but either tomorrow or Wednesday, we'll get all that stuff. We'll talk with Mike about that. So like and subscribe. Good viewership. I think we had, when we logged off the show at 11, because I had to run over to the same, I think we had like 1,200 people watching. So thank you, everybody. Andy carried that with me, and obviously Evan and Anthony in person, and then sprinting over to do the media availability, and Emery and Greg and Parks and Mike and Jovan and Eric and everybody else for that. So Max carrying it as well. So appreciate all of that. My PSA just, and it's not even really a rant because I'm very positive right now about everything, but traveling Friday, there was reports coming out about this expansion, trademarking things and all that stuff. I want to get Andy's thoughts. I just want to give my 2 cents. I saw arguing on Twitter about who found the trademarks first on the publicly available trademark database. But we need to focus right now for the next 10 weeks on this. We had 9,100 people in Houston yesterday for the game. Now, I know that that's, the Easter, and I don't, that's fine. I think that's a tremendous attendance. We did good. And for the Arlington and everything over the weekend, but it's like the first weekend of games. It's like, oh, where are they going to go next year? You need to be excited right now for Chase Garbers against Case Cookus, right? First game next weekend. That is what we need to be focused on for the next 10 weeks. Then we can get into all this other stuff. But it's such this like sugar rush of like, it's like, let's enjoy what we have. Let's build, let's share, see my videos, share them, see Mark's stuff, share it, Mike's articles, Anthony's, let's share and build what we have right now and get excited for that. That's kind of my 2 cents.
There's a phrase I use a lot, which is don't draw the cart before the horse. And I think this is definitely emblematic of how behavior goes in this space, where people really want to have a team. They really want to have a team expand to their city, or they expand to a certain area that they think is profitable. And look, I'm no stranger to this. I have talked about having a team in my area for God knows how long, because I lost my pro team. I want another team. But as you mentioned, the reality right now is they have to take care of their own teams. They have to take care of the people they have right now. They have to take care of the markets that they're in right now, because quite frankly, they're not performing at the levels they're going to if they want to be sustainable long term. Like sub 10,000 attendance is not going to get it done in the long term. Is it fine the first weekend? Sure, that's fine. I think they need to keep building on those numbers. Really, I learned a lot from your podcast this weekend, the whole live show, and really getting all the eclectic individuals that we had throughout the entire time, which credit to you for getting all those people on. Your connections are wide. The breadth is insane. And I kept thinking about, oh my God, I can't even think about the connections you have in Canada extending past this once you get back into the CFL talk. But the reality is that you're going to have individual owners who are able to fund and keep profit flow coming into the league if you're going to really be able to have something sustainable long term. And that's just going to be a reality that I think Fox knows. And I think that the XFL owners know that has to be part of the equation. Now, when is that going to get done? Remains to be seen. But that has to be part of the equation before anyone can even think about going to another city or even like daydream about being in another city. You got to get through year one. You got to get through year two, which the USFL got through 2 years, and there still was no expansion. Right? They collapsed some of their teams, so it obviously went the other way. And I think a big part of that was there was no individual owners. So I think before you get that part of the equation involved in the talks, there's going to be no expansion. Sorry.
Yeah. So, but overall, I would say, and I want to get your thoughts because we'll go kind of game by game here. But I thought it was really good. I thought it was an exciting weekend. I thought it was fun seeing, even though it's the USFL, Roughnecks, whatever. Like seeing the Roughnecks first. I like feeling like Memphis isn't, an entirely different team for a variety of reasons, but like very like exciting to watch. So exciting to watch, right? And here we have the Brahmas. Who knew Chase Garbers is the next greatest? I'm literally tweeted. I'm sitting at Dallas Fort Worth. Got the TV on the bar. Like AJ Smith and Chase Garbers are absolutely cooking here, running around. So that's what I liked from the weekend. There was a lot of and you're going to get this in spring football. The Brahmas were not great last year, right? And obviously, new coach and quarterback and all that. But I like seeing that kind of stuff where it's not the same status quo where, the Chicago Bears have been horrendous for an eternity. Like you can turn things around really quick. It's really flexible that way in terms of getting the fan bases excited. I think if you're the Brahmas, I understand why you did not come out attendance-wise on Easter Sunday. But hey, if you're a Brahmas fan, I'm excited now to go to that game next week. And that's what's cool about that. And I think, just enjoy having AJ Smith as kind of a, co-friend, whatever you want to call it on Twitter, but like seeing let's breathe new life into some of this stuff. So that was some of the positives I saw coming out of it. What was some of the things that you enjoyed seeing?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I couldn't help but think about, as I mentioned, the game that I went to last year, the Brahmas and the Renegades game that I brought one of my friends to. And that was a 13-10 slugfest where all the Brahma QBs they got down to, I believe, Jawan Pass at that point. Kirk Benkert was in there. Like there was just a bunch of random guys, and the offense it was putrid. Like nothing was getting done. Dallas, Arlington had nothing going for them because they hadn't traded for Luis Perez by that point. So I'm having to watch Drew Plitt and company just completely toss it around the yard and not get anything done. And it was really tough to watch. It was a tough watch, honestly. I felt bad because my friend came to it and I was like, I promise it can be better than this, but I can't show it. Now, San Antonio, yeah, complete makeover. This is a completely different coaching staff, obviously. I mean, it's basically the Houston Roughnecks. I mean, it really is. A lot of the personnel and the coaches and everything are the same that transitioned over. So the Roughnecks you're watching on TV are the Gamblers from last year. That's still going to be really confusing for people, I think. But the San Antonio team, I mean, I just couldn't help but be so mesmerized by the fact that Chase Garbers performed so well. I apologize, Chase Garbers. I was not familiar with your game. I did not understand the breadth of which you could get it done. But look, I had to see it first because I know the coaching staff talked about it. I know they seemed really excited about him, but I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it at Cal, and I hadn't seen any other iteration of his past performances. So now to see him come out the way he did out of the gate, that first quarter especially, I mean, he was just pinpoint passes. Really good timing. His snap to throw ratio was fantastic. I just really loved what he did during the entire game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Andy, I got dinner at 8:30, so we got to make sure we get this podcast wrapped up. Okay, I got plans here today. I also liked because I was watching the Brahmas game at the bar, and then I was able to get the Memphis game on the plane flight home, so I was actually able to listen to that one. And I loved my favorite soundbite of the weekend was John DeFilippo like, that was it. I want to say like that call was terrible. Like you've had a great first half, but that was garbage, and you know it. So at some point today, hopefully, have a good first half of the podcast, and then have a bad first half of the podcast, and then we can get all that stuff. No, it was exciting. We had. I will say, con wise, the St. Louis Panthers game until the the record-breaking kick at the end from the high school kicker, and I've already been tagged MLF football right now. Report: Lions have inquired about Jake Bates. That game was a little snoozy until we got to the end. That was exciting, but otherwise, I would say that was probably the low point of the weekend. And then we'll go game by game here as we get about 12, 15 minutes in here. How did the main game, the kickoff game, come off on TV? Because like I was up in the press box, it was weird. Like The Rock was running around, and they were going to do the press briefing with him, but then they needed him to do the thing on the field, and then Anthony was covering. Like it was kind of a mishmash getting that all going. How did that come across, and The Rock and kind of everything else kicking off the season?
I think it came off pretty well, pretty professional broadcast. Obviously, Fox has been in the game; they've had their skin in this game for a while, and I think Kurt Menefee has learned a lot. He's gotten better. It's so funny going back to old tapes and watching him mispronounce teams' names or players' names. But this time around, I think he was really good. Joel Klatt, I mean, he's just dynamite. He loves doing this. He knows all the players. He's got a lot of his notes there. He's really into this whole thing. I think that was the perfect duo to come out with. Brock Heward, I was a little surprised. I thought Brock Heward said on your podcast, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought he said about last time he was on here that he was not thinking about being part of this anymore. And now he's actually there. He is on the sideline. So it's good to see him back. And he got a lot of like interactivity with the coaches and the players. He was talking to Bob Stoops for 2 minutes. And I think Bob Stoops at one point just blew him off. He was like, hey, I got to do my thing. See you. And just kind of dipped out of the interview. But I mean, the energy was there. I think the presentation was good. They clearly know what they're doing with this whole product. I actually really liked the one later on in the day, the St. Louis and Michigan won a lot too. Kevin Kluger, I think, did a great job. I think that presentation, the Fox presentation of spring football, is a really good presentation. It's very professional. It's very well put together. The graphics are good. The stats are there. The knowledge is there for the most part. I think it's actually pretty well put together. So I have to commend Fox. I think they did a really good job with the kickoff game. And just, again, having Stallions and Renegades there, giving both of them their props, both of them their flowers, all the players from both leagues, their props, I think was great. Yeah, the presentation was good.
I will say, and I don't know if this is a Fox thing. I don't know if this is a whatever. Now, social this season now during the games is tremendous in terms of posting the, like the second the trick play is done, we're posting that. The second the field goal kick, getting all the reactions, all the, screenshotting all the tweets. I don't know if that's what we're rolling in Fox people to that, right? But remember last year, we'd be sitting, and I understood it was a lot of one man or one woman bands running around doing that. Clearly, they have people back at like Fox HQ that are, hey, we're clipping these from the game broadcast. We're not, I mean, I would see Haley because, we'd be in the front row of the Dragons games, like, go get the video, run back to the computer, put the SD card in, you're right, cut it, upload it, and then run. Like, that is not just, having the people here. So I would say tremendous for that. Kudos, because if you're sitting there, even if you're not watching this last weekend, but if you're sitting there on Easter, you're seeing these clips, you're seeing these things come out. You're like, God, I got to go check this out. You had, the Dov Keelman or Kyle, whatever you say, the Dovs of the world on Twitter, like, centers are catching touchdown passes in the UFL. Like, it's exciting, and that's what you need. You need to break outside of just, if I follow the UFL on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok, I'm getting this. You need to start getting these things going viral, and I thought that was great. I thought you had, like, last season, the big swing with the Battlehawks game where they were able to, utilize basically every rule book to get the 3 points and all that to get back in the game. I thought this with AJ, with the trick play with that, with the field goal kick on Saturday, you had kind of tentpole moments, I thought, from each of those games that were like real actual football that I thought gave people, an opportunity. If you were like, hey, I'm sitting around, I'm bored, this is cool to check out. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, no, it was instantaneous, and I really like that they brought that up. There was one player I remember I saw, speaking of interacting with the media, I saw one player that was trash talking Pat McAfee, but I can't remember who it was. He was going after him a little bit for something about kicking or something. I can't remember. I have to go back and look. But I mean, there definitely was interactivity. You had some of the NFL media people catch on and look at it and go, oh, okay, the UFL's here. What's this? The usual, they've been through this merry-go-round, the usual, like, oh, there's this new league here. Okay, cool, whatever. So it's a matter of sustaining that throughout the season. Obviously, there's going to always be that first burst of initial excitement and intrigue, and then we'll see where it goes going forward. But yeah, no, I agree. I think the social media clipping, the repetitive nature of like getting everything up as quickly as possible, I think that's good. Like, you put in the work to do that, because then you were able to get people catching on and excited and get casuals involved in the audience. And on Easter, it's obviously tough because, people, I assume, are not necessarily on their phones unless they're in church and they're bored. But if you're a good Easter goer, you don't do that. But no, I think I absolutely agree. I think they were really crisp and they're really instantaneous with their posting.
Yeah, and all that, the post game graphics. I mean, we deal with that, with the CFL, and I even can't, like when the Mariners play and the Mariners lose or whatever. I like having that post game graphic to be able to tweet, to share my opinion on, to be able to see what other people are people upset with this, the crack, and like it's just a way to build that side. Just tremendous job all across for all of that. Let's get into some football here. So we were, this is the big showdown here, and I'm learning my way around the stats page right now. So there's a better way to do this next time we can do that. But obviously I was traveling and not in front of my computer to get all of this stuff. But, Stallions, they didn't clean the clock. The first quarter, right? The first half tied at half. Then they really got away with it. What did you make? Because I was, press box. I was talking about Mango running up and down. What he was there with his family. What did you make of the kickoff game?
Look, the Stallions made a statement, especially that second half. I mean, they approached almost 200 yards rushing by the end of the game. They basically came into their job and ran over the Renegades in the second half. They knew what their game plan was going to be. Once they finally got into halftime and got their adjustments, I mean, they ran the ball really, really effectively. I can't help but be impressed by what their coaching staff took care of in that second half. Matt Corral came out kind of rusty. He threw some fastballs in the first half that I think could have been a little bit better, a little less mustard on them, because he definitely sailed a couple of passes. The interception was not his fault. That was Deion Kane's fault, and he passed the ball to him, and it came out of his hands and into the hands of the DB from the Renegades. But then they really started to get going. That pass before half, when he just threw that deep field throw to Kane for the touchdown when he got behind the defense of the Renegades, I think changed the complexion of the entire game. If that doesn't happen, I don't know how the second half goes, but they did their job. That was really good. Corral looked a lot better in the second half. I think he's their starter. And it's just a testament to the Stallions to keep just circling and continue to cycle through all these quarterbacks and somehow change their offense enough to be able to accommodate to all their skill sets. I think that's the most impressive part here. You go from, it's not easy to go from a Jamar Smith to a Alex Magoo to a Matt Corral, and they're throwing Adrian Martinez in there too, and he's running around. So for them to be able to adapt to all these different quarterbacks and still have a consistent amount of offense really is a testament to their coaching staff. Skip Holtz is a veteran here. Just a really good job for them overall. I was just so impressed by their run game in the second half.
Well, and yeah, the quarterback thing, and I mean that it was the interesting question, right? Because I'm like, I'm so glad I made the thumbnail for this week, and I had Jamar Smith on there, and then the depth chart. So I changed it, was able to change it for the YouTube one. But the presumed Jamar coming in and kind of taking care of business and all the history he's had with Holtz and all of that. So you see Matt Corral as the starter moving forward. I mean, I know we'll get more practices and depth charts and stuff this week, but you think he's earned that?
I think so for now, absolutely. And I know there was questions because Jamar Smith wasn't even on the active roster on Saturday, which was surprising. But look, Matt Corral's arm talent is undeniable. He clearly has the skills, the tools. I think it was just a matter of him getting enough reps. He had played limited action with Carolina really in the preseason and didn't look good. But Carolina has been a dumpster fire the last 3 years, so I don't think that's really on him. And the injuries also didn't help. He had a lot to overcome. I mean, he hadn't been in a real game since January 1st of 2022 in the Sugar Bowl. And he got hurt in that game. I remember watching that game. So for him, it was just sort of shaking off the rust, as I mentioned. I think you have to anoint him as a starter for now. But Adrian Martinez is really interesting too. Don't get me wrong. I really like him a lot. I want to see if they can use him a little bit because he is fast. Adrian Martinez is fast. I love his legs. They need to find a way to use him in that offense. So, I mean, that's the thing. They have options. And if Corral goes down, I don't think they're hurt. They probably have the best quarterback room in the entire league if you're really looking at it. If you're talking about the skill sets for all of those guys and some of the experience, like with Jamar Smith, I think they're fine. So, yeah.
No, I'd say the speed really translates well up in the press box when Adrian Martinez would be running around, and we're like, man, he's really fast that way. In terms of, because I'm looking here at the stat line and everything, our Renegades just kind of fell apart in the second half, right? A lot of struggles there. I was at the bar after waiting for Anthony and Evan, who were doing the media availability. Had a great conversation with Luis Perez's cousin. He was there. Remember, we talked with him at the where the heck were we? San Antonio. And, we were talking with him, and he was there. We had a beer, kind of talking about Luis. I thought Luis had a decent game, all things considered. Like you said, at least the one interception. What did you make of Perez and the rest of kind of, because the Renegades, it's always been the offense that's kind of been the issue here, getting everything going.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Their offensive line had some issues at the beginning, which I mentioned in your show. There might be some time that is needed for that cohesion to come through, and it wasn't really coming through at that moment. And look, it's going to take time to reestablish himself with some of these receivers like Deontay Burnett. I think he can do more to sort of reestablish himself with a guy like him. They need to get the running game going. Look, they got to find a way to use Letty Brown more. They need to find a way to take some of the pressure off Perez, because I could tell by the fourth quarter it's going to be on his arm, and I don't think he really had the help that he needed. He tried to force a deep pass that got picked off. It wasn't going to happen. There needs to be a little bit more of an opening for him to work within, and it can't come from the fact that the other team is just gassing your defense and you're down by 13 points. So you have to find a way to get around that. So I think Perez was fine. He tried to do what he could. He had a couple of moments where he was really on fire, and he had some really nice throws to the sideline and then intermediate routes. But I think that he needs to have a little bit more assistance on offense. And I think they'll figure it out eventually, but it's going to take a couple of moments to figure it out.
It certainly wasn't something where I was afraid Birmingham was going to come in and just clean the clock, right? I mean, Renegades were at least competitive for that first half. It really felt like they had Birmingham kind of on the ropes a little bit and then able to tie it, going into the half. Perez had the one where he's scrambling and like the guy was around his legs, and he started, I thought Luis looked really good, and you definitely see his intelligence and just kind of the way that he's able to see the field. And we've talked about this before, him being a coach or associated somehow with football is a must afterward, just A, because of the experience, but B, just how quick he is to kind of process and see everything. I really enjoy that. I guess now is the time of any to talk through all this. We'll get through the other games, but this, the USFL, the XFL. Do we like this? And obviously with the Panthers inexplicably beating the Battlehawks here. Okay, we'll talk Coach Bechter in this a second. But do you like this of them kind of winking and like stoking the fire?
Well, they better post this graphic every week if the XFL starts racking up wins. That's all I'm going to say. If they stop doing that, then we'll know where their allegiance lies. But look, I need to see them be consistent with this if they're going to do it. But I personally, I'm a little tepid about putting up graphics like this, because you and I have both experienced the throes of passionate fandom from both of these sides. And I know it should be passionate and in a positive way, but I hate to say it, it's not been like that. It's not been all roses with some of the people involved in both of these corners. So I want to be a little bit cautious about stoking this fire. I don't really approve of it very much, to be honest. And I think they need to be careful about starting that in the chat, because I don't think these people, these two leagues, the people in these leagues don't like each other, but I don't think it's in a point of like, oh, I don't like you, but I respect you. No, I don't even think it's that in some ways. So they need to be a little bit careful about starting fires that they're not prepared to try and put out.
David's upset. Inexplicably, I knew Michigan. It was inexplicable to me, and I watched a lot of Panthers games last year. Just the other thing here, we'll get to that game. Here UFL tweeted, "We're live with Pat McAfee. Hey, we're live. We're live with Andy Murray right now, guys. Come on. Pat doesn't need the rub. Unless we're talking destroying on there. Anything else? Because I do want to talk about. We'll do the field goal kicks and all that stuff. Anything else with this game? Any other final thoughts? We'll move on to the next one.
I think Birmingham's clearly your top team right now, and they prove it every year. They just keep coming out on fire and really just put in the work to get their team to look like they do week in and week out. I have to say I'm very impressed with them, and they're still going to be on the road going the next week, but it'll be interesting to see. Look, my biggest thing with Birmingham is what's their home crowd going to be like, and boy howdy, I can't wait to actually get attendance numbers on their home crowd and really get some of that data, because I want it bad. So we'll see. But Birmingham is your top team for a multitude of reasons. Their defense, we'll see how their defense holds up. I'm curious to see, if Scooby Wright can stay healthy, if they can have some of their, if they can avoid some of the injuries that they had last year and not rely on, spectacular performances from their quarterback like they did last year with Magoo. I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I just want to point out Scott here. Go Stallions. Scott's a member. You can become a member. I think it's 99 cents a month. Just help support. I got the hotel bill for the Arlington trip here yesterday. So, this isn't a money-making endeavor, but no, I appreciate the support. We had a comment as well, Mike. Yeah, Birmingham always worries me with their attendance, all the success in the world, and they certainly have the home side of the stadium. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, no one, can't say anything until we see it, but I definitely think it helps not being on Easter. Easter Sunday or whatever, even when we were there the first season, and they did good with the kickoff, obviously, but it's tough. I don't know why they didn't do it next week. I just would have started next week. I would have avoided all this nonsense this weekend with basketball and having to play, we played at noon or whatever. I would have kicked that down the road, but, we'll go to the next game. Just a reminder, we got like 120 people watching. Make sure thumbs up the video. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure hop over on the link, give a thumbs up, subscribe. Are giving away 2 tickets to the championship game. If we hit 3,500, we're like within 100 and change. So that would be awesome. Been working on that for a long time. But Zach had a question as well. If I'm going to the championship game, I might have to now. I had a wedding that Saturday and then wasn't going to be able to make the trip on Sunday, but we'll see. I had XFL people, hey, Reed, you coming back out again? I thought that was nice that they asked me, like, hey, good to see you. Are you coming back out? Makes me feel like someone, or if they're just like, hey, do we have to deal with you again here another weekend? Either way, I appreciate being asked, but like and subscribe, give a thumbs up to the video, and then get us to that 3,500 so we can, we'd love to give away those tickets and talk about something else, because that would be cool, because we have been talking about that giveaway for a long time. So here we go. Panthers, Battlehawks. This was a little slow. I missed the first little bit transitioning from Choctaw, changing to the hotel, getting to the bar. And I'm like, okay, well, I haven't missed a lot on here. What stood out to you about, kind of about the lack of, I guess, offense for both of these teams, at least starting out?
Boy, these offenses were slow. Really sluggish coming out of the gate. St. Louis had some problems running the ball. They need to figure it out. Wayne Gallman, I didn't think really impressed his first game, and there just wasn't a lot to work with there on their run game. McCarron really couldn't use play action effectively the entire game. I think McCarron really came on in the fourth quarter. He looked awesome. He looked like maybe the best quarterback in the entire league again. Marcel Aitman, man, I'm so happy he's finally starting to make plays, because last year he got hurt and he basically took a backseat to the show that was Hakeem Butler. And he was able to really make some incredible catches, one being a huge fourth down catch when they were trying to get their comeback going late in the game. And I have to say, St. Louis, I mean, they're fighters. This team just doesn't die. They're gnats. They just keep hanging around. They did this last year. It was very reminiscent of that Brahmas game last year when they got the touchdown, then got not the onside kick, but the try, the 4th, 12th try, and then they were able to convert. And then they got another touchdown and a 3-point conversion. I mean, they just seem to find a way to win these games. But this time around, that was not going to happen, because Jake Bates, of all guys, kicked a 64-yarder to win the damn thing. I mean, insane story for a guy to not kick since high school, and then to just casually trot out, make the first one, gets frozen because basically St. Louis called the timeout, so they tried to ice the kicker, and it didn't work. He just drilled it again like he had been practicing for the entire winter. It's kind of insane, honestly, that he would just come out and do that so casually. I love that. But for St. Louis, it's a huge missed opportunity. It's a huge missed opportunity. They should have won this game. EJ Perry, I don't think was very impressive. He should have thrown a pick 6 to begin the game. Linebacker dropped it just point blank on the first drive. Was not really crazy about Michigan's offense. One thing I will say about them, though, I think their defense is legit. Like, Frank Goodness is great. Breland Speaks is great. Their defense showed up, and they kept the Battlehawks in check. So it wasn't all just Battlehawks didn't do their job, but I do think St. Louis ultimately should have won this game, and they didn't. And I think a couple of things, just that field goal is just insane. Like, you have to give him credit. Like, that's such a walk-off. What an incredible moment for him, an incredible moment for that team. But I can't help but feel like St. Louis dropped one here.
It was, and this was funny too, because, right, isn't this where Justin Tucker had the NFL record as well, right?
Yep.
Against Detroit. Yep. So it's, I mean, obviously inside and all that. So what's the record on that one? Is that 65?
I believe it's at 65 now. I have to double check. But
yeah, but it's someone I saw posted that they're like, I was in attendance for both of these games. I'm
wow.
Like, that's pretty crazy to think that you're in. Yeah, so Dave said the exact same upright. So yeah, it's definitely even it was even going that way because I watched that video a million times of all the fans and they're like, oh no, yeah, 66 yards for Tucker. So tremendous that way. And again, what I like about this, and obviously I shared at the beginning here. Where is it? The the Lions already looking here. The kicker, I'm like, but this is what we need, right? This is the kind of stuff that is good, not like expansion. Like this is what we need. I want it to be more than just special teams people getting the nod, but obviously anybody that can get any job. I don't care if you get a long snapper into the NFL. Like if this is part of what we're doing, if this is part of what we're, I know Daryl wants to get away from the developmental stuff, but if this is part of going to be the league culture, is getting these guys in. This is great. So tremendous on that. And you have The Rock tweeting about that and everything. So, you're getting kind of everybody involved. I think it's a good that way. We had a question here about Battlehawks did this last year. Slow start, and then kind of coming on again. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with age being an issue for McCarron? What do you kind of, because they did this. I do remember last year kind of not being super overwhelmed at the beginning.
Age, I don't think so. I mean, his acumen for the game is clearly on brand. I think he still put some decent mustard on that ball that he throws. I don't think it's really much of a problem with McCarron. I have more of a problem with their offensive setup, and I think they're going to have to figure out again how to get all these weapons going. I think their receiving core might be the best in the entire league because what you have Darius Shepard coming back, who's a great kick returner. You have Hakeem Butler, and you have Marcel Aitman now starting to come into the fold. And like they're able to get enough offense going from just their receivers alone. Their receivers alone, I think they're going to be fine. But I'm just a little bit concerned about their running game because I just don't think it was really impressive. Conversely, the Panthers, my God, Wes Hills was awesome. I mean, he just looked like a man amongst boys. His shoulder pads are just, popping out to insane degrees, and he's just running over guys. He was incredible the entire game. He had some huge runs. Great asset for the Panthers to have, and I think they need to lean on that more because, again, I don't think it's there with their quarterback room. It's kind of unimpressive to me. Perry will do enough. He obviously has enough with his legs. He got 2 rushing touchdowns, and he can scramble out, but from a passing game perspective, I don't think they have much to work with. Maybe Devin Ross, but their receiving core is a little bit thin for my liking. So the Panthers need to continue to work on their passing game. But for now, I think they have to lean on the run game. And that's kind of a Mike Nolan coach team. It's defense and it's the running game. That's how he won in San Francisco. That's how he's going to win in this league. That's how they won last year. And now they were 4-6, but they were still able to get into the championship game. They still did the thing. So clearly this team has an identity. They just need to know how to lean into it more. And if they want to be more consistent on offense, they got to use that running game and they got to lean into Wes Hills. He's really good.
A couple questions here. Flamey, is Houston good? I'm new to this league. Houston it depends which Houston you're talking about. We'll get to the Houston game here, but the new Houston, I think if you're a Houston Roughnecks fan, I think Philip is on that video where the guy's like throwing himself over the ledge. Like, I think that's where Philip's at today, like with the spray and the lighter. Mike here, quick question. The NFL team's already calling for Bates. Can he just up and leave the UFL? If an NFL guy signs, is he locked in for the rest of the season? Rock joked about that. I don't know. What's your thoughts on this? Because certainly, I mean, the Lions aren't playing right now. I mean, do you just sit out and not worry about getting hurt? I mean, I might as well stick around. But what do you think?
I believe as far as the contract goes, they're supposed to serve that unless something happens where they sign a contract if there's like a specific contract made with the NFL. I had to double check that, but I mean, for him, he should just keep kicking until something happens. If the Lions really want him that badly and want to sign him to a contract, then so be it. Like, then go ahead. But until then, I think he needs to keep playing and continue performing the way he has. When as great as the story as it is, he also needs to show that he can do it again, of course. For me, it's about the opportunity. If it comes along, then yes, he should go ahead and take that opportunity 100 million %. But until then, he should just keep kicking. I don't think sitting out is really going to do a lot of good. For me, it's about, again, putting good tape on, putting good game tape out there for teams to see, even if it's just one kick. I think you need to be able to continue putting in more kicks overall to show what you can do.
Yeah, I think that is, and I mean, this is good, exciting that we're getting all this right now. But this is definitely, I'm trying to pull up some of the show here in a minute. This is definitely like, yes, let's cart before the horse, or like let's get through. I mean, this is. I know he did it twice in the game. It's still tremendous, but let's get through that before we're signing him to $1 million contract with the NFL. Zach has a question about the Battlehawks. Do you think because he's a Battlehawks fan, my team's issues are more defensively or coaching? My dad and I go back and forth. He thinks it's coaching.
I trust Anthony Becht, and I trust the coaching staff. I think they're going to figure it out. And actually, the defense looked better than they did last year. Last year, they had some real issues with their linebackers, and it just seems like they got kind of pummeled in the run game sometimes. I actually think their defense looks a lot better. And as far as their coaching goes, again, I think they'll be fine. It's more of a matter if they're going to get Bruce Gradkowski and AJ McCarron on the same page again, but it's about getting cohesion in the offense. McCarron wasn't there the entire offseason. Obviously, he was with the Bengals, and there was questions as to whether he was even going to come back. So I don't think even having those reps of the practice time, it's going to take time for that to kind of come back into the fold for them to really get back on track. I think they'll be fine. I really do. And again, I wouldn't be concerned about the defense. I actually think it's an asset this year as compared to last year. And then for the coaching, again, I'm fine with their staff. Becht is going to find a way to motivate his guys. And I just can't help but be impressed with how they're able to stay in these games, even when things look bad. They always find a way to stay in these games. Your concern might shift more to last year when they outright lost to the DC Defenders and Seattle Dragons at home, and they looked like they just got run over. But again, I think those were defensive issues, and that to me seems like it's been cleared up a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk here about the Houston and San Antonio, all that. Where was it? Oh yeah, Flamey asking. He's switching teams now. He doesn't want to be a Houston team. Well, I think you could be a Brahmas team. I think that's the team we're gonna get to that game here as I transition. And Flamey, if you're new, anyone's new on here, make sure you subscribe. Andy and I will be back. Not always this time on Monday, but we're gonna, at least for the time being, and if Andy's got to work or do anything else. But the game plan's Mondays. I'll post out when it's going live. But I like doing something post game, even if it's in the evening. Just this is fun getting everyone on here and kind of comments and everybody about that. So coming up to what I think is the biggest story of the weekend, except for the field goal kick. I had made this graphic. We're talking Brahmas and Brahmas defenders now. Kids describe God to an illustrator. QB1 Chase Garber is here. This was, and I'm going to get the game stats up. This was surprising to me, at least. Mike Mitchell, Reed, everyone really liked Chase Garbers, and people they were sleeping on it. This was a clinic. I mean, this was a great game. I mean, they beat the defenders. Like this, everyone would say, Mike took the upset. Of course, Mike took the upset. But this defenders did not look good. San Antonio looked really good.
I mean, this was just a statement by the Brahmas. Their offense looked awesome. Jontre Kirkland was more involved than he was last year. He was throwing he was out on a trick pass. He was obviously catching the ball with veracity. They threw him around on some end rounds. He looked great the entire game. It's great to have him healthy. There's just such a huge difference in this offense when Jontre Kirkland is healthy. And as I mentioned before, Chase Garber's just pinpoint passes looked really good the entire game. I can't help but be impressed by him. He proved me wrong. I'll say that. He proved me wrong. At least for 1 week, he proved me wrong. This AJ Smith's run offense looks like it did with Houston last year. And everything just looks really crisp and clean. I do want to make sure that their offense has a running game going forward. Anthony McFarland running throughout the entire game was great, but I think they need to make sure that they continue to have a running game, because if they don't, it might get dicey like it did last year. But having Kirkland in is obviously a huge asset. Cody Latimer, I mean, that's such an addition. That's awesome for them in their tight end room to have someone like him come in like he did from the Guardians. He is going to be a huge asset for Garbers, at least to be able to throw some of those seam routes down the middle of the field. I think that's a huge point of emphasis for this offense. Again, just outstanding performance by the Brahmas offense. For the defenders, I mean, they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. They had 2 touchdowns come off the board because of penalties, one being a illegal man downfield penalty, which is just a killer. That keeps happening in the NFL too. And then obviously the biggest one, which was the touchdown throw that Tiamo thought he had, and then 2 things happened. 1, it was a false start. 2, John DeLance, the tackle, gets ejected for spitting on another player, which basically, I mean, if
Is
his
he in
name,
the league? Is
if
he
his
currently in the league?
by the end of today, I don't know if that's going to be the case because that's pretty egregious. So for him, that might be his swan song. But then immediately following that penalty, Tomo just throws a hideous interception, gets undercut by the cornerback, and goes back the other way. I mean, just everything went wrong for the defenders, especially in the third quarter. So for them, I mean, it was just a really sloppy game. Could have been more competitive, absolutely. I think they just didn't play their A game. But I have to give credit to the Brahmas. Their offense looked really smooth for most of this contest. Really just outstanding job by the staff. And it's a new era of Brahmas football. It's not the same as last year where the team could barely put up 13 points.
We have we'll talk here. Jenna's talking comments. Jenna's a member. You want to be a member? Get on here. 99 cents a month to shoot that. So we had the big trick play here, right? And I had my little tweet about destroying and all that as well. And just to give my thoughts on this, and it's great that destroying is bringing in fans to the league. A spoiler: more people probably watch his content than watch any of the games this weekend, right? To be fair, but I just don't like singling out a single. They had a cut up, and I don't know if this is I'm not trying to besmirch a friend, Jay Noakes or whoever they made that call with the Brahmas. Like, let's do a super cut of all of destroying's plays from his debut. Like, are we going to do that for every player? I mean, if we're going to sit there and for your kicker, if we're going to do the kicker, the super cut of all the kicker who did not make a field goal, right? Had this one go wide right. They were called the timeout and all that. But if we're going to do that, are we doing the Chase Garber super cut? Or are we doing the Cody Lattimore super cut? That's where I just didn't understand where it came from. But they obviously had the trick play I tweeted. I don't know if I would trust him, kick it from the 58-yard line either. But this was a cool play, vintage AJ Smith. But what did you make of any of that stuff? Because this was, I got a little upset about all this.
I mean, that's the funny thing, right? He missed the field goal, gets iced anyway, so he doesn't even have an official attempt on the stat sheet. And then Brad Wing just walks out there and throws a touchdown pass to center Alex Millette. It's kind of emblematic of what this league is really about. Again, it's about it's about everyone. It's not just about one person. And I don't really feel that. Look, I know from a marketing strategy, it's important to get someone like Destroy involved, but I don't think he needs to be the focus. Okay, he really doesn't need to be. And you know what? You want to appeal to his viewership, fine. But for me, that doesn't really matter to me because in the long run, I don't know really what he does besides just being a cheerleader. I'm sorry, but it's for me, it's not the most important of the focal point as me as a fan of a league like this. It doesn't really factor into what needs to be done, which is putting the spotlight on other players. And like you said, if you're going to do that with one guy, can we do that with other guys? If you're going to have that, all these highlight tapes and all these interviews and all this camaraderie, can we do that for everyone else included? That's the thing. If this was Fox, do you think he gets the same treatment on Fox? Because I think ESPN tends to play this up too. They really like to ham this kind of stuff up. They treat it like it's wrestling a little bit. I definitely saw a difference between the two broadcasts. Again, there seems to be a certain track that both of them go on. If this was Fox, I don't know if they necessarily highlight that as much. I think that we'll see when the Brahmas are on Fox. We'll see how much Mr. Destroying really gets under the spotlight.
Well, and Abdul here, talking about kind of the number, and it's great. I think it's tremendous that we have it's tremendous of that. But when he had the live in-game interview, we had the super cut, we had you didn't score a point. It's just hard. I get wanting to make it be a thing. And for, Cole Kubelik and all these guys, we're pulling over and, the fat man touchdown and let's go talk to them. I like all that stuff, but this was pre-planned. We are talking to Destroying no matter what. And it's fine. I mean, the Brahmas are my team. I mean, I love Wade Phillips. I love, apparently I really love Chase Garbers now, right? AJ Smith and everything else. But I just don't like it. It could be the same in any of these. I didn't like it in Fan Control Football. Okay, we're spending 87% of the marketing time on Johnny Manziel, and then we're talking with the other guy. There are other people on the team, especially there's other people that are scoring points. I would rather have to sit down with Brad Wing. What do you think about this? What have you trained? And I think what was it? And I know they talked with I think they did talk with him. I can't remember if it was him or the senator. That's well, there was only one route. And this wasn't the right route, but I don't know. I just don't like it. It feels like we're forcing a square through round hole here.
I don't think this league has stars. They have to make stars, and I think they have to focus on people who actually are performing. As I said earlier this weekend, potential is great. Results are better. And that goes for the football field too. I want to see results on the football field. And I know, YouTube subscribers have their own power, but for me, that's not the power that I really resonate with. And I want to see more focus being put on other players who really put forward the product that's actually going on in front of us, not, oh, I have to go to his YouTube channel to follow his story. Like that to me, that doesn't really connect. I have, and look, I'm not their demographic for that. Okay. I'll be honest. I'm not the demographic that they're appealing to. They're trying to appeal to, his base and his audience, but you got to mix it in a little bit more strategically than just kind of putting it in so fervently during a game in which I'm trying to learn about the Brahmas roster. I'm trying to learn about, okay, how's this transition going between Houston to San Antonio, and what is DC doing? They're having trouble playing in San Antonio again. We saw this back in May in the championship game. They're having their own issues. Can they get back? That's more interesting to me. Okay. So you got to mix it in a little bit more strategically. It's just kind of the same thing with people during the NFL season. There were so many people that are alienated by, like, oh my God, I don't want to hear about Taylor Swift. I swear to God, if I hear this one more time, you have to be careful about leaning way too into that and not alienating your core fan base.
And it's not like, and if you like it, it's awesome. I'm just sharing my opinion on it. So I do not enjoy it. I do not, again, I am not in the demo either, but and it could be anybody. It could be, it's not like, I don't like destroy, like, it doesn't matter. It could be anybody in the world like that. That's my thing, is I don't like when we're building. I didn't like last year when there's all the marketings around the rock and we got like, let's focus on all the players. Let's focus on all that stuff. Anyway, but yes, feel free to disagree. It's fine. I don't take any offense to that. We'll get Mike's question here or comment here as we move to the last game at Memphis. Pretty good, too early to tell, but they looked good yesterday. Like, Memphis is a totally different team here. And I thought this was, it got a little snoozy at the end. I was kind of fighting with the plain Wi-Fi to get all this going. But in terms of the words of Evan Wilsmore was saying in the group chat, like, what happened to my Houston Roughnecks? I mean, this was, I know, obviously we know what happened to Houston, but like, what do you make of this? Because I have a comment I want to pull up as well.
Jared Guarantano is not it, and I don't think this offense is it either. I'm going to say right now, I think Houston has the potential to be the worst team in the entire league. Their offense looks listless the entire time, not really doing it for me. I think for Memphis, they came out really strong. I think Case Cookis looked good. He looked like he was finally refreshed after last season. He's had had a bit of a rough going ever since that championship game in 2022 because he got hurt, broke his leg, and then he comes back and he's trying to play better last year. And the Philadelphia's offensive line is just terrible, and I felt bad for him the entire season. But now he looks fine. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for the Memphis offense. I think John DeFilippo is going to have a plan for him in this entire side of the ball. Defensively, they looked good, but I think a lot of teams defensively are going to look really good against Houston this entire season. I mean, this is a tough year for Houston. You lose your players and your coaches because they moved to San Antonio. You adopt the Gamblers. I'm going to keep calling them the Gamble Necks because they're not really the Roughnecks to me either. That's if Evan Wilsmore is wondering what happened to his Roughnecks, it's because they're not here anymore. This crowd, I mean, look, it's tough to have a crowd like this in Houston because you're in Rice Stadium. You're not in your home stadium because the other stadium is undergoing renovations. I mean, they had sub 10,000 people, which is fine. Honestly, I'm just glad that they actually got numbers for what I assume would be if it were a Gamblers game. I'm glad that they actually gave us attendance numbers.
Yeah, you would have.
Exactly.
Mike, and credit Mike Mitchell for all of that. But Mike's the one getting all the attendance numbers. And yes, I'm glad we got that.
I want to credit Mike Mitchell so much for getting those attendance numbers because I don't have to go through the superfluous bit of oh, well, looks like there's a lot of people there. I don't want that. I want numbers. I want facts. I said that on Saturday. I'm glad that those finally came through. And now we have data to work off and we know what we need to use. I know it's Easter. That's tough. I get it. It's Easter in the middle of the day. But still, this Houston crowd is, been jockeyed around a little bit. And they're going to come out and watch a product like this every week. That's tough. That's a tough sell. So Houston just looked really listless the entire game. And they kind of almost got back into it in the second half. And then they had that unfortunate offsides jump when Memphis was lining up for a field goal and they actually missed it, but the offsides resulted in a first down and that pretty much sealed their fate. So really, really tough sledding for Houston here.
What I liked was at least I was thinking about this. we like the extra points and all that stuff and 1, 2, or 3, but it really does help sell a game like this, where in the NFL, this game's probably done. But when they're like, oh man, this is still a 1-score game. I think it helps with that of keeping people. And I mean, yeah, that's hard. Like to go all the way down the field, get a touchdown, get the 3 points, do the whatever. But at least you can sell that reasonably. Where sometimes in the NFL, it's like, okay, this game's put to bed. I will say, comment wise on the attendance, Mike Mitchell talked about this on the kickoff show, which if you guys haven't watched that on the YouTube channel, appreciate that. But Mike will be back this week. We'll talk through all that. But Mike has said ownership is very realistic about their expectations this year, both attendance and TV wise. I know when the ratings will come out, there'll be a lot of scrutiny and like, oh, did the USFL versus USFL game do better than the? Like, I know there's going to be all that kind of stuff, but I think expectations this year, like, we're getting through this year, which I don't always like, because I feel like every year we're always just trying to get through this year. And when you don't have the highest expectations, maybe you're not pushing the boundary. So that would be my only hesitation that way. But yeah, I wouldn't freak out about 9,000 in Houston. I think, obviously we need to build on that. You don't want to drop on that, but I just think that if that makes sense, I don't want to fixate on that too much. But I also don't want to be a cheerleader.
No, I agree. And look, I think overall, I'm going to be honest. If I'm giving my overall impressions of this entire weekend, I felt whelmed. Not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed. I felt whelmed. And I think that's honestly fine for the first weekend after all the tumultuous, teams being lost and merging and all of that we went through the last year. I think this is fine. This is okay as far as what they performed at. I think the football quality was good this entire weekend. I know our colleague Anthony Miller mentioned the offenses were a little bit sluggish. I expected that. I didn't think they were really going to come out of the game look really that good. I think it will get better. The play will get better as these teams get more used to their players, their new players that they have. I think things will get better as the season goes along. But I really was fine with the overall quality of the play. I felt watching the games that this league seems to finally be coming to the realization of what they have and what is realistic, like you said, and what Mike Mitchell mentioned, finally, because I think the last few years, both the XFL and the USFL were maybe a little bit too big for their britches and expected way too much, and then were underwhelmed by what actually was there. And I'm glad that there seems to be some realism in here involved, at least, so they know that the quality of football has to be good. They need to survive financially. They need to look into getting individual owners in the future. Like, there seems to be more of a plan. I feel like there's more of a plan this time around, and it's weird to feel like there's about a little bit of solidity here. And I mean, part of it is I think this should have been the setup from the beginning. Like, you should have just came back out of the COVID pandemic with Fox coming in and saying, "Hey, we want to have a majority ownership. We want to bring in all these USFL brands. Let's keep some of the good XFL teams and let's make a league and let's see what happens." That should have happened in the first place. Instead, we had 2 years of both leagues coming back and doing their own thing and being, trying to create division between each other. And it was never going to work. I think this is like an alternative universe where this should have happened 2 years ago.
Well, and I wonder what that would have looked like. I mean, I've sat there this whole time, and because when I was at the airport bar yesterday, and because the game's on, and one of the hey, what is this? I'm like, well, he's like, well, is it the U? Because it's like, is that because the USFL? I'm like, well, I mean, it was the USFL, and then it was the XFL, and then they wanted to merge, and no one really wanted to lose hand in this situation. So then, okay, that's a new thing, and yes, I wonder what happens if COVID and Vince McMahon doesn't bleed all that, obviously, but B, if Fox, if they go to this and decide to kind of do all of this together, from the beginning, I think we're in a very different situation. I will just say on that, and then we have some questions and comments and we'll get out of here. I did and if you're new on here, like and subscribe, but Daryl Moose Johnson was on the show last week, kind of previewing the season. And I thought I don't know if humility is the right word, but just his earnestness of, we're doing the best we can right now. We're trying to get through the season, and then we're going to reevaluate next year. I thought was good, and just kind of like you said, knowing where we're at right now, right? Where everything's not going to be perfect this year, but I mean, everything went off. I talked with a lot of the people with the league over the weekend, and I know it's a tremendous amount of work, and it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of cat wrangling, and it's a lot of kind of all this stuff. So by and large, it's really hard to kick off a football league, and especially, redoing one here with 2 months to go. So I think overall, I thought they did a good job. I had a comment here from Jason for you. I'm a Roughnecks fan. Am I the only one pissed that they gave away our team to San Antonio, along with one of the best coaches ever? They had insult to injury. We got one of the worst teams. I said this, like, you can't give the rug, like, you can't pull the rug out. I said this, and I had a lot of people like, Reed, nobody cares. It's just the uniforms. It's just the truth. I think this is a thing.
It very much is a thing. No, you realize what you had when it leaves you, and that's the thing that happened here. Like, the entire team, the identity went westward and went to San Antonio. That's tough to sell to your fans when they actually care. I don't want to hear people say people don't care. There are fans that have, at least like us, invested enough time to go to the games and do something about their fandom. And I felt that way a little bit with the Michigan fans. I felt like, okay, these people have been around for a year. This is cool. Same thing with, and maybe we'll see that with Memphis next week. It'll be like, okay, some of these people were here last year. They're starting to get used to their fan base. And same thing with Arlington. Like, there's starting to be familiarity and continuity, at least finally, with some of these teams. And that's a good thing to have. That's something you need to have. But with Houston, I mean, that's tough. Like you said, you just ripped out the cords and basically plugged it into an old TV set and said, here, look, it's the same thing. And you're like, no, it's really not. And that's really tough to sell to your fans.
Well, and the tough thing too, we talked about this, like with Memphis got better. If you're a Memphis fan, if I'm a Brahmas fan, it's like, well, I am a Brahmas fan now, but if I was a Brahmas fan last year, you're like, oh man, like we got Wade Phillips now, we've got all this, and it looks like this quarterback's going to be fun. Like, so it's hard to be the inverse of that, where my team was really good, and now none of the things that were my team, except for the name, right, are there. And I love Curtis Johnson. I mean, he was on the show 3 weeks ago. I mean, I think he's a great leader of men and all of that stuff, but he is not Wade Phillips, and this is not the experiment that we've had the last couple of years.
No, it isn't. And I mean, that's the thing. It's less familiarity. I mean, Wade Phillips is a Houston guy. His dad was a Houston guy. Like, there's that familiarity already built in. So you had that. You had one of the most exciting offensive coordinators in the entire league, AJ Smith, and you had an identity. They had identity in 2020 when they existed. I feel like Houston doesn't really have an identity now, and that's really tough to sell.
We had a comment here. Jason, it's refreshing that someone else cares like I do. Thanks for the good show, guys. P.S. The Roughnecks were great both years of their existence. Appreciate it, Jason. Make sure you're subscribed on here. I don't know if I've seen your comments before, so I appreciate that. A couple of other questions here. If anyone else has anything, and then we'll get out. King of the North, can you do the entire show in that voice? I think that was my stuff. But again, people take this stuff like, and I know people get mad at me. I'm like, you're so. It's this. I mean, this is. I'm hitting things over here. This is spring football. It's not really not the end of the world. Jenna, she's a member. Jenna's a member. You can be a member. Always get your comments read. Is that how you start? XFL will bounce back. It's week 1. Again, if I was a smarter person, I would go through and like, okay, well, how many players were on the Birmingham that were now and then they're back, or did they get? It wasn't like I said in the group chat. It wasn't like J.R. Smith Jamar Smith went out there and beat Luis Perez. I mean, this was, it's the Stallions, but it's whatever. And then Jordan says, sideline mics with the players, huge win. I love that. I love the coach flip. I think he's a good coach for that. And I like him and the Case Cookis. Any comments on that or anything else? Because I like that. And obviously Brock Heward. I know you brought him up earlier. I think Brock's going to come back on the show. Brock and I mostly just send Brock Mariners commentary and he responds like, thanks. But I think I'll get Brock back on. So that would be exciting. Anything on the sideline or any of the other mics?
I loved the back and forth between Chase Garbers and AJ Smith. I mean, AJ Smith's play calling is sublime to listen to. John DeFilippo, I mean, my favorite moment maybe on the mic was when he's shouting at the ref, like, that was a terrible call. All right, guys, field goal unit. That was a terrible call. And he's like going back and forth between two different parts of what's going on in his head. That was really funny. It was almost like a stream of consciousness moment for him. That was really cool. I love some of the, just some of the fire from some of them. Obviously, Stoops is always great. Again, just his candidness with Brock Heward on the sideline was great. I think Brock Heward's really got it down as far as like roaming the sideline and really trying to get the most out of all these players. ESPN needs to work a little bit on like interviewing the player that just got off the field and is too tired to talk. That's something that I have a little bit of a problem with. It's like, can we give these guys a moment to like breathe and, get back
No, it's
into
got to
this.
be in the
Like,
moment. We got to do it right now.
no, but they're like hyperventilating. Like that's how I would feel as a football player. I'm like, I don't want to talk right now. I'm just trying to get air back in me. Like that's I get it's supposed to be in the moment, but they need. For me, I just think there needs to be a little bit more strategy with that, or like I don't know, talk to the kicker who just made a kick. Like he hasn't been out there
No,
the
we're
last
done
11
talking to the
players.
kicker. No more kicker
Not just
interviews.
destroying. I'm talking about
No
other
more
kickers.
kicker interviews.
Okay, Reed wants to ban all kicker interviews. Okay, that's my takeaway from today's show.
But I have a lot of kicker friends. I mean, Matt Mankel's been on the show, Ernesto, Kyle with the old XFL. I mean, he's co-hosted the show, but I think we're good with all that stuff. Yeah, what was it? John here says Brock was the MVP with that Stoops interview. Yeah, we saw that because the TV was on and then they were out on the sideline. So I was kind of seeing that as it was going. I will say I like the Cole Koop version of I'm just gonna grab your head with my hand and hold you in. So we do the interview. I like that where Cole's been on the show and I think he'll come back on, but he's not even giving you a chance to get away. It's like, here, I'm gonna grab your face mask and come in here. You're doing the interview.
Yeah, very strongman edition of the interview. I love it. But yeah, no, I think the access is one of the things that fans really come to, and especially with just the back and forth between the players and the reporters. Hearing the players talk between them and the coaches, that's really an identifying part of the league, and it has to be. If you're going to be able to sell this product, you need to do that. Continuing to hear Dean, I love hearing someone like Dean Blandino really talk through the plays, immediately. It was almost shocking when John DeLance, for example, when he spit on the player, I didn't even see it, and then he gets into it's like, okay, we have a personal foul. He spat on a player, and it's just like, what? And hearing that live and just kind of being almost shocked by that, and him kind of talking through just very calmly, like, okay, here's the procedure, and this is what we're going to decide on. Very cool to just have that back room with Dean. That camera angle is great. Seeing all the TVs and all the angles, that was really cool.
I had a question here, and might be more of an Andy question, but how is the Trine technology at the stadium? I mean, to me, you're just watching the game and they're showing it. I mean, nothing stood out to me for the broadcast. I saw more of it, obviously, flying home the game yesterday, the Memphis game. But did you like any of that stuff?
Oh, that's freaking awesome. Are you kidding me? As a guy who's hated the chains for his entire life, I love it. Oh my God. People coming out and actually saying how much distance is actually between the ball and the line. Novel concept. I mean, the fact that they can just immediately on the spot, the broadcaster say, so it's about 14 inches short. Awesome. That NFL, where are we on this? This can exist. It has to exist. The archaic dinosaur chain moving methodology needs to go away. I'm tired of it. I know it's all funny for people, but it's for the practicality of actually getting it right. I think it's incredibly important, and seeing that immediately come up onto the screen when there's a play and not having to second guess it the entire time and having to go through the whole merry-go-round of ball spotting is fantastic. I love it. I think it was great. It was instantaneous. It was quick. It makes the game better.
I like how Mike Pereira, who was already like, is this experiment of spring football even going to work? And then was like, or Mike Florio, right? Mike Florio, sorry, I get my mics confused. With pro football, is this even going to work? And then it's like, man, this league has better technology than a league that's been around 100. It's like, pick a lane, Mike. You can't pick a lane here. You can't get the clicks for hating on all this stuff. And then also this is incredible.
Reed, that's all he does. He can't pick a lane. It's in his blood that he can't pick a lane.
A couple here we'll get out. I know Andy's got to get to work here pretty soon. Is there any chance some of the current NFL free agents sign with these teams just to get on the field? Yeah, definitely can. I mean, this is the one cool thing right now, and I definitely think you'll either be seeing, do we have some quarterback trades here coming in? I mean, what's cool now is we're seeing what these teams look like, and yeah, I mean, they were making moves and trades and stuff up until whenever Luis Perez got in there last year. I mean, there's a lot more flexibility with this. And I will say from the coaches that we've interviewed on the show, there is very much a pride in wanting to win. I think USFL season 1 had a little bit of I got my sandals on here. We're at practice. We're not necessarily super invested in, kind of if we lose here the rest of the way out. I think all of these coaches, USFL and XFL, are really invested in that. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, your director of player personnel should be looking at other people, and your coaches should be looking at other players as you're going throughout the entire season. Obviously, look, the last 2 champions, 2 of the last, if we're talking about 2 major champions the last year, the CFL. I mean, the Montreal Alouettes get Darnell Sankey, and Sean Lemon signed on in the late season, and suddenly they have this incredible pass rushing duo, and it helps them get them all the way to a Grey Cup win. Same thing as you mentioned with the Renegades. I mean, trading for Luis Perez, I mean, that was seismic. It was huge. It was game changing. It got him into the playoffs, and it got ultimately resulted in a title. So yeah, these kinds of late player signings absolutely can happen, and they can make a huge difference in the season. Just even week 5 or week 6. When we get to the midway point, that's really big. And I think that makes it more exciting. It makes it more intriguing, and it gives these teams a chance that maybe don't come out of the gate so strong. I imagine you're going to see that you could see that from the Stallions. I mean, that guy, what's his name? Potter. I can't remember his first name, but the GM for the Stallions, Zach Potter. I mean, he is just always on like getting player transactions through and always getting in new players. I think they're always going to be active. They're going to always be looking at ways to improve their roster. So yeah, absolutely. That's a huge part of this.
A couple here real quick. And then I just want to talk what we're excited for next week. We'll get out. These are a couple fly through. How we get injury reports. That's how Mike and Anthony post. They're supposed to be in the portal. So I was on this week, and then obviously I was flying out Friday. They should be posting, like a Monday. What did they do? Like a Tuesday, a Thursday. There should be. I don't want to hold too much against them week 1 because it's week 1. We will see now. Daryl Johnston said on the show, and we got depth charts kind of the same. I don't know if I ever saw Memphis, I think it was the DC depth chart until, and again, I'm running around and we were doing the show and stuff, but this weekend was a little chaotic. I think we will get more regularly posted, but they are supposed to be sent out from the teams to us. If you're part of it, I get all those emails, and then they're also supposed to be in the media portal. So I will keep an eye on those. Like you said, McAfee had on Brad Wing, and then they talked with Destroying about the trick play. Yeah, what was Destroying's part of the interview? Like, hey, how are you a decoy in that play? Like, what did Destroying add to that interview talking about the trick play? Like, I would love to know like what that was.
Yeah, did you love being iced before Brad Wing basically stole all of your glory? Was that part of your strategy, Destroying? That would be my question. I think talking to Bates and Brad Wing is great. I mean,
yes.
Pat McAfee's a specialist. I mean, he's going to love just talking to these guys regardless. So that's going to happen. He's going to bring in all the special teamers from this league and talk to only them exclusively the entire season.
Although I did see a comment because Pat McAfee hates the XFL kickoff, so I hope he keeps the same energy now with the NFL incorporating that, because he was very anti that. Last thing here, we have Reels and Heels. What are you looking forward to in week 2? So I have the schedule here. We'll talk up because this is supposed to be. I mean, we're not going to preview this forever, but to me, I mean, this Brahmas Showboats game, it's at 9 a.m. Pacific on Saturday out here in Seattle, but that's a tremendously exciting game in terms of, Renegades, Battlehawks on that. I think the Houston Defenders game has lost a little bit of luster here coming out of week 1. What games are you looking forward to this weekend?
I mean, that's one of your best quarterback matchups right there, is Chase Garbers versus Case Cookus immediately out of the gate. And also, I'm excited to see the Memphis home crowd. They have a second year of being able to build on from last year. This is really good. This could be a really good showing for them. I'm excited about that game. I think there could be a lot of offense in that game, a lot of scoring in that game. So for me, that's a great matchup. It is a little bit early, but you know what? You take it as you can get it. For the Battlehawks, the Battlehawks are going to be absolutely ready to destroy the Renegades again. I feel so bad. The Renegades got the streaming last year. They were the first home game for the Battlehawks was against the Renegades last year too, and they absolutely vaporized them. And look, I think the Renegades are a better team than they were this time last year going to the Battle Dome. But this Battlehawks team is going to be so ready to get behind this crowd. This crowd is I'm really curious to see what the attendance numbers are. They're opening up more sections, I believe, this year, if I'm not mistaken. So they're going to be able to just get a huge home crowd behind them, a lot of energy. Again, it comes down to if they're going to be able to establish the run game. They need to get that going. But I imagine the Battlehawks are going to be poised to bounce back from this week.
Yeah, we had a question, and this I said the last bit. Jersey Kings asked this a couple times now. How do you guys think attendance will be in week 2? Yeah, so like Andy said, Battlehawks. This will be, again, I wouldn't do the Easter kickoff with the baseball playing across the street in Texas, but because I walked. Spoiler alert, I walked out of the because it's Choctaw Stadium. It's right next door to the Rangers, Texas Live. I walked out of Choctaw to hundreds and hundreds of people at Texas Live eating and drinking. It's like, they weren't, because like they don't know, hey, we're going to the Ranger game here. We're going to go get our World Series ring. Battlehawks are going to bounce back. They always deliver. DC, I don't think the poor performance from week 1 will dissuade. They always deliver. But yeah, Panthers, 2 home games back to back is tough there, right? Because they were at Ford Field. And then, yeah, like you said, the Showboats will be questioning. So I don't know. Michigan's a tough market, and I don't think they did tremendously well last year. I mean, obviously they did better than teams that weren't in their market, so that's kind of hard. But any thoughts on the Michigan? Because what did Mike say? It was like 13,000, 12,000.
Oh no, it was 9,000. It was less than
Was
that.
that Michigan too?
That was Michigan as well. Yeah, they both were sub 10,000 for Houston and for Michigan. It was 13,000 for the Brahmas.
Yeah, let me see here, because I got the final number of, because that to me is going to be tough. Yeah, no, okay, you are correct. 94. Yes, so you are correct on that. So that we'll see. Michigan, and that's a really big stadium. It's really big.
It is a big stadium, but I mean, you hope your hope with Michigan is that some of the enthusiasm is rubbed off from the Detroit Lions season. I mean, the state of Michigan just had an incredible winter for football. I mean, January they got a championship for Michigan, University of Michigan, and then obviously the Lions had an incredible run. So you're kind of hoping to rub that enthusiasm off a little bit. I actually, to be honest, I think this Michigan Panthers crowd this first week was bigger than a lot of the crowds they had last year. I think last year they had even less. If you're talking to me, I would say generously they had maybe 2,000 or 3,000 at some of those games last year. So for me, that is really good for them to have this crowd, at least for the first week. But we'll see. Yeah, back-to-back weeks is tough. But the Stallions, I don't see any reason why the Stallions won't just completely control this game. I mean, they're just the better team. They have the better offense. I don't think Michigan has it together offensively yet. Their defense is going to have to put in a lot of work just to stop the Stallions, but I got to feel pretty good about Birmingham. For Houston, I mean, terrible setup. You're going to DC. You're going to face the beer snake. You're going to face the defenders, who are also pretty upset about last week. And I think that from a discipline standpoint, they'll play a lot better than they did week 1. So I got to feel pretty good. If you're telling me to take teams this weekend, I'm going to say San Antonio. So I'm going to take Brahmas, Battlehawks at home, Stallions on the road, and then DC at home. That's kind of how I feel.
I would co-sign all that stuff. So they have a comment here. I guess the Tigers are playing across the street next week as well. So it was comments of, I guess it was the USFL season 1 where we were talking TV, and even last year there's a lot of, do you do the February with the XFL, or do you do the April, right, and March Madness and all of that? And I remember I guess it was season 1 and the USFL being like, no, we're doing April because you're going to miss out. Like, all we're competing against is golf and hockey. Like, there's no real temple. And then all you heard during that entire thing was like, oh, there's all this other sports program. I was like, it's always the best or the worst time of the year to do all that. But yes, I mean, but you got baseball now, and it's nice, and people are excited for that. Baseball's, I think, hotter than it was 2 years ago, with the pitching changes and all of that stuff. I know that we go into a ton more Mariner games. So, Andy, anything else from you? Like I said, if you're on here, please like and subscribe to the video. If you're on Twitter, click over and, get the YouTube channel. All that. I appreciate it. Mike Mitchell will be back with me Friday. We'll figure out when we're recording this week, getting Mike's thoughts, and then we'll try to get some more player and coach interviews here. We'll see kind of how we do that way. And then obviously we'll be back Monday. We'll figure out what time we're doing that next week. Andy, anything else from you?
I'm just glad to be back on these recaps. It's been a long time. Obviously, we hadn't done it in quite a while. I think I popped on once during the CFL season last year, but you had John Hussey and you had Evans Wilsmore holding down the fort for you on that one. So I didn't really need to contribute on those. I'm glad to be doing this again with you. Always appreciate it. It's always fun to just talk about the evolution of this game, these leagues, everything. And I think it was a good first weekend. Like I said, hopefully I can join you for the next one. Next time you either go down to Dallas or wherever you go.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. And then, I'm going to be at that Memorial Day weekend game in Arlington against the Battlehawks. We're not going to do any show or anything, but I'll be hanging out. We're going to go see an In Flames concert there at Dallas Live. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, like I said, I appreciate it, John, everyone. I'm going to be on John Lewis this show. I don't know when he's posting that video, but we're going to record tomorrow. So I'll be on with John Lewis, and we'll be getting, I guess he'll be getting my thoughts, or we'll be pontificating through all of that stuff. So I appreciate everyone. We'll see you next time. And where is all my stuff? We'll see you guys next time.